Hello everyone, I'm Manoj Kumar Jana, founder and CEO of BioFolk Scientific Community. I'm joined by Dr. Sudip Das, our BioFolk Scientific Community Chairperson. He's a scientist from Technical University of Munich, as a group leading many projects also. We are honored to welcome Dr. Sen, our guest speaker, professor from Sivanand University, India, one of the brilliant mind in organic chemistry and first Indian scientist who received the Perkins Award from Royal Society of Chemistry for the contribution in eco-friendly EEC tech. Once again, Dr. Sen, thank you so much for managing your precious time and join us. We are honored to, yeah. Can you please tell us your academic journey and what motivated you to pursue the science? And how did you early education shape your decision to pursuing the organic chemistry?
Okay. Uh, Basically, being from a very middle class family in Bengal, obviously education was a part and parcel of our lifestyle. Education and football and cricket and all those things, and adda, obviously.
Yes.
My mother was a college professor, and she was a professor in physics. My father was a chemical engineer, and so from very childhood we had this an environment of education and things, and just the way it all happens among our household. We are all motivated. Whatever you do, you can go ahead and have a something as a hobby, but at the same time, education is something which is must. So from my childhood, I used to be a sort of a bookworm. I used to read a lot of different books, and starting from your autobiographies, scientific, all those novels and everything. And then I did my schooling in Frank Anthony Public School, and then that was the Central Calcutta. And then obviously after my schooling, I went to Narendra Ramakrishna Mission, and that was though a little bit of outskirts of Calcutta. Sometimes we used to come back and spend our time in College Street, Boipada. I was telling one of our fellow reporters who took the first interview after I got this award, and then I said that never ever I was away from that academic milieu of Kolkata. I was always there. I used to go and look for, I used to hear and watch group theaters. All the time there was this, your international film festivals. We used to be there with friends watching like films of Godar, Krufo, Christoph Zanussi and all these things. And Satyajit Ray, obviously. Manik Babu is a part and parcel of our culture, Rabindranath Tagore and Manik Babu. So what happened was it was just not the science, I would say. It was like a holistic thing that really helped us in our upbringing. And then when we were exposed to the domains of physics, chemistry, mathematics, I think that was the time. This was somewhere around late, the previous century, somewhere around 1996, 97, 98. We started to understand that the science is just not all about physics, chemistry, and mathematics, and it was all about sort of some concept of translational pattern was being evolving during that time, at least in India. It must have happened in the West earlier, but that was the time when we were trying to we were being imbibed by our professors in Narendra Ramakrishna Mission, later in Kalyani University when we were doing I was doing my masters. That science is just not about chemistry, it's just not about biology, it's all about a mixed thing. So while going through this kind of a training, then for some reason, I honestly I started liking physical chemistry more, physical chemistry more. And however, at that point of time, I somehow felt a little bit materialistic and felt like probably if I can switch to organic chemistry, then it would give me a better career option rather than what I really liked. So that was the only one time in my entire academic career I thought about, being a bit more earthly rather than philosophical. And that was the time. This was in I remember that in our Kalyani, in our masters, the final year you have to select one specialization, and that specialization was depending on our final year marks from first year to second year. And obviously the better people used to choose organic chemistry followed by the physical and this. So I had an option to choose either of any of these four branches, and I started liking organic chemistry. So that was when I started to switch, because then I realized that maybe organic chemistry has a lot of openings. It has openings in pharmaceutical chemistry, agrochemistry, material science, and then using in a lot of catalysis and all these things. So
Yeah.
then that was the switch I made, and that was when everything began.
Yeah, that's physical chemistry received organic chemistry. That truly means unexpected things because you love someone,
Absolutely,
but
these
you
are
marry
two
someone.
absolutely, absolutely. These
That's
are
a very good
completely
analogy.
two different things.
Yeah, I think this is really, yeah, I think it's really nice to hear that. I think you reminded me of also the academic milieu you're talking about in Kolkata. I think it's really, come to think about it, it is really special, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
In fact,
think,
every time, even now, when I go to College Street, Boipada, last December, there was one international conference by Professor Dilip Maiti in Rajavaja Science College, and then later on, I visited Presidency University for another talk, and I always feel revitalized every time I used to go to that place. That place has not changed at all, and it
yeah,
gives you some kind of a so positive vibe. I remember even now I'm standing for hours taking a second-hand book and trying to read over it, because it's a treasure trove of knowledge. That entire that book stalls right on the border of Presidency University, and that is a different kind of a feeling, which obviously only those people like you who have gone through it and who have been bred through it, they will really understand. I cannot explain that feeling.
yeah, that is true. That is true.
Then, what is the focus of your doctoral research? Means,
Yes, that is another
because
interest.
you are
Yeah,
love
please.
someone and marry someone.
That was something very interesting. So, obviously, as I said, one of the main reason for me to switch to organic chemistry was your medicinal chemistry, the pharmaceutical approach. So, when I went to University of Missouri, Columbia, there were, like, as you know, in the US, what happens is, even in Europe, the same thing. You go for your lab rotation kind of a thing, and even nowadays we are all having the same thing. And then, I preferred one professor. I still remember his name, Professor Richard Lepke. He was a pretty big shot in toxicology. So I wanted to understand how I can use my knowledge of organic chemistry in understanding the toxicological aspects of drug discovery, the metabolites, which which forms which are toxic and all those things. So initially, I thought about joining his group as a research student, and never ever I thought about that I will go into conventional organic chemistry, because I was a lot more application oriented. But then what happened was, the professor was quite old, and he mentioned to me that, Shubho, see, I am already close to 75. I can only take master's student, and I won't be able to take any PhD student, because PhD students means a lot of commitment, which I cannot do at this present of time because of my age and health related problems. And unfortunately, during that point of time, most of the organic chemistry professors already got their selected student, because Professor Lepke mentioned this to me a bit late of the particular semester. So there was this one professor, my PhD boss, Professor Sean Pooley. He was the junior professor. It was his first, or yeah, that was his second year, who has joined the university, and he works on organometallic chemistry, more directed towards organic chemistry. So I remember the first project I did with him was Fischer carbene complexes, and then utilizing them into different kinds of benzanulation and cycloaddition chemistry. So that he was the only one who was left with. So I had no choice but to join him as a PhD student. So after I joined him, I mentioned to him that, see, I really don't like conventional organic chemistry, and I was thinking that I will work more into the application part. So he mentioned to me that, Shubho, we suggest that we work in a project where you first work into something fundamental, and then slowly we will move into applications. And that's exactly what happened with him. And he kind of ignited the spark more for me to move into drug discovery and the medicinal chemistry and all these concepts. So I remember working on developing chromium, using chromium, tungsten, and in order to develop these carbines, Fischer carbines, and then utilizing them in variety of reactions. And then after that, we moved into making biological molecules against Alzheimer's. So there is this protein in our human brain called transthyretin proteins, and wild type TTRs, they are the ones which at that point of time was thought to be the reason to develop Alzheimer plaque. So we were trying to stabilize this protein by making different organic molecules so that it's basically a tetrameric protein. And then because of the change in the pH of your brain over time, it breaks open and those monomers become plaques. So our job was to create ligands which could stabilize these tetramers. So then I started to move in and started working on more on the application side using small molecules.
I think that is really. I think as you mentioned in between, there was this line where like you were thinking of application fundamental, but I think both are so interrelated that
Absolutely.
these days we tend to. I think there is no clear cut boundary these days. You know, this is
Not at
very
all. And,
yeah.
and now I realize that probably the fundamental knowledge is even more important to come up with variety of applications. And this is so much applicable to our alternate electrode-electrolysis. Because over here and during the discussion, I will also narrate the story that based on the conventional electric current or electro-organic synthesis, how we go ahead and develop this, came across this discovery of alternate electrode-electrolysis.
Actually, after your postdoc, means after PhD and postdoc, you are spending more or less 10 years in industry.
Yes.
Yeah. Then,
Absolutely.
then what is the skill set you are acquiring there, and how you are step back from industry to what are the thought process means industry to switch academia? How?
Yes. So this is a very interesting development, and it just like what I now when I look back, I started to feel that life is full of uncertainty, and you never know what will come across, and at the same time, you will never realize what you really want. The fact that sometimes we say that we don't know what we want until the time we come across. So this was during my last few months with Professor Albert Myers during my postdoc. So Al, as we all know, he was a very student loving person. He used to have a huge research group, and then by the time I joined, then we were few postdocs who were left with Al because Al was also like quite old when I joined, but he used to think a lot about students. So this was his discussion with me, saying that Shubho, now that you are coming to the end of your postdoc, what do you want to do? Do you want to do another postdoc or you want to go to the industry? So I said, what are my options in a way that what are the things, what are the attributes I need to assess in order to seek my options? Then he said, see, if you want to go for an academic career, I suggest you better go for one more postdoc. I can talk to Sam, that's Samuel Dansevsky, and then Sam could or Larry Overman. So and then you can either go there for your postdoc, or if you want a job in the industry, then I can set up some interviews, and then you can give the interview. I can only help you in setting up the interviews. Ultimately, it's up to you and to the company, depending on the compatibility, they will be able to recruit you or not. So at that point of time, I really never felt the urge to move to academia. I was so much motivated to do drug discovery. And the fact that in Albert Myers' lab, I did a huge natural product synthesis, viridinomycin. It was a 52-stage synthesis. It was this huge macrocyclic molecule containing a cyclopentadiene ring system. So it was a 52-stage synthesis. So there was an immense learning about any kind of organic reaction. So I felt like I know a lot. Now it's the time to, if I could go and utilize it in the industry. So I lined up at least 3 or 4 interviews. My good luck, I cracked all of them. One was called a company called Avenir. It was in San Diego. And then 2 companies were there. One was in San Francisco called Celera Genomics. That was the company who used in deciphering the human genome. And then there was this company called Chemocentrics. It was also in Mountain View, California. And I somehow liked among the 3 offers from Chemocentrics. They were working on small molecule inhibitors for chemokine receptors. These chemokines were used in different kinds of inflammation, like psoriasis and some kind of cancer and all these things. So this was a biotech startup company. They had a lot of funds. So I always wanted to join a startup company because of the employee stock options. That was it was a different ball game, ESOPs. So I joined Chemocentrics and I worked there for 2 to 3 years, and I was enjoying my time over there. It was really nice working a lot of different aspects of medicinal chemistry, and the company was teaching me, like I used to work with the biologists, and that is where I started to learn about the different aspects of drug discovery. And and one thing I just have to go, like before I reached US, one thing my father used to mention to me when I decided to go to US for my higher studies is that, see, the thing is that you can go there and you learn, you earn money, but eventually we will be happy if you come back to India. And what happened was, this was around 2004, and the Indian Contract Research Organization was really looking a very promising field in India. In fact, one of our CRO which we were working on behalf of chemocentrics is Syngene. That was the Biocon company.
Yeah.
So that was the time I started to think about, like, okay, I have spent about 2-3 years now in American industry. I have learned a lot of drug discovery, and I was reading in the newspaper India Shining. Our Prime Minister, Mr. Bajpayee, was there, and he was leading the country and all these things. So I then decided to come back to India, and then Syngene incidentally was there visiting us. So I spoke to them through our company, chemocentrics, because chemocentrics was already a client of Syngene. And then it worked out, and I came back India, settled in Bangalore, started working in Syngene for the projects which they were running in chemocentrics. And then slowly I started to have my bigger portfolio, a lot of other mid-size, large-size biotech companies in Europe and things. And then after Syngene, I moved to the BASF, the German chemical company, because I also wanted to learn process research. And then I went to Pfizer, Veterinary Medicine and Pharmaceutical Sciences, BMPS. So, and I also worked for a company called Jubilant Biosys, GVK Bio. So after spending in the industry for like over 10 years, 10 to 12 years, 10 years, I started to feel a bit like, monotonous with the kind of work, and because I felt there's nothing new to learn, and the contract research organization got a bit boring for me, because it was pretty much client dictated. So that was when I started to think about if I could switch to academia and try to do something of my own, develop some new research. So to summarize my industrial, sojourn, I would like to say that industry has taught me to be disciplined. Industry has taught me a very important two concepts. One is called return of investment. Whenever something is given to you for a project, please ensure you give that back more, so that there is no ambiguity in your capability of running a project. And whomsoever has given you the resources for you to conduct the project, that person will again come back to you. So that is like gaining confidence. That was the one thing I learned from company. And the other one is turnaround time. So time is extremely important. I mean, obviously, I do agree that fantastic research, needs time. But the thing is that if we can manage it properly, we can probably go ahead and finish our research more on time, instead of letting the things go. So these two has helped me a lot when I moved to academia.
I think efficiency is what industry teaches, I think, really well, right? In this case.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a fascinating journey. I know a few people also who have been moving around, but I think it's really, I have not come across such a journey. I think it's really, really nice to hear that.
No, it's a very very thrilling journey, and at the same time, it's very educational for me. Obviously, the way I can look at it is, I always wanted to learn. That was the reason. Probably this was a much more educational for me, because wherever I went, I never was complacent that I'm good enough for this or more than good enough. I always wanted to seek avenues where I could learn, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Learning has not ended for me. I think the day you believe that I have achieved or I have attained, that was that will be the day where you started to go down. You cannot be complacent.
Exactly. Yeah, that is actually very good advice. I obviously not as experienced as you, but I generally give this advice as well. So I'm happy that to hear the same thing from you. That's really, really nice. I think what is also very interesting is I'm very curious because some of the questions I have in my mind, because I have not worked in Indian research at all, or never have been there in an interview. So I'm curious, walk us through the moment when you, let's say, you got the first opportunity to do your independent research in India, and somebody goes through your CV, and that moment in interview when they ask you that crucial question as to why, So was there a moment like that?
Yes, obviously, because
Yeah.
you see, what happened is 10 years back when I first moved from academia, the conventional Indian academic scenario was still very much influenced by publications.
Mhm.
And being in the industry for my major part of that then career, I definitely had not a lot of publications. It was mainly patents. So there was a lot of apprehension from the academicians. I interviewed in few of the informal interviews. I never ever got into a formal interview into IITs. So I went into few of the informal interviews before they called me for an interview. And the first question was, you do not have experience in mentoring students. You do not have experience in teaching them. And you do not have experience in publications in that way. So interestingly, this switch, I was thinking about 2 years from before the time I really did the switch. Two, not two, even before that, even 3, 4 years before. Why? Because I started to get involved while staying in the industry in a lot of academia industry collaborative work. And there I used to collaborate with academic professors where I used to publish journals. I used to give a lot of within these companies, especially in GVK Bio, I would say they have they have built a nice academic environment. There was one person, I must say, Dr. Balaram Patro. He was a PhD student of Professor Ila. And then after his postdoc, he returned. He was working in a lot of these CRO companies, but he was a person who really wanted all his chemists to know about new chemistry, and he believed in continuous learning. So I remember a few of our like-minded people. I was there. Then one of my friend Praveen was there, who was from Roche, San Francisco, and then there's another person called Raghu, who was from Dennis Puran's lab. So we all of us used to every twice a month used to have these literature seminars. We used to have these academic adda kind of a thing. And then I started mentoring few PhD students. So because I had in mind that eventually I will make a switch. I never knew when because I was waiting for the correct opportunity. So when this question was asked to me, so I tried to explain to them that see, this is not something which has just popped in my mind. I have been planning this. I want to do this, and these are the things which I have done. So it's not that I have not taught people. Obviously, I have not taught them as a teacher, but more as a facilitator, as an instructor. Definitely, I have mentored students. So all these things are already there. But at the same time, within me, in my mind, I was a bit apprehensive about myself because like managing like a group of people under industrial scenario and truly advising them, because I have seen over last 10 15 years, 10 close to 12 years, because I started in 2013, so now it's 2025. Last 12 years, nearly about 15 PhD students have graduated from my lab, and with most of them I'm still in touch, and I have seen that it is not that the relationship never ends with your PhD. In fact, it grows. In fact, my first PhD students, they call me every time they have some problem in their industry. Sir, what? And they still call me sir, and I always say, please call me Shubhoda or at least Sen. Don't call me sir. I'm not your sir anymore. We are all at the same level. And I used to tell them that, and we are still in touch. In fact, one of my students who got married, he made me his borkota. So this is the kind of a relationship I have with my students, all of them, irrespective
Yeah.
of the gender.
Yeah.
So this is something very important I've seen. And not that this has to be there. Not all of my colleagues or my acquaintances, fellow professors are like this close, but I think this kind of a mental bonding helps even in your research.
Yeah, because PhD is one kind of relationship during
Absolutely,
guide and his student.
definitely,
Yeah,
definitely.
very
So the
few
bonding,
professor and scientists they are following this. I've
Yeah, I
got an
think it's
opportunity to work.
yeah, I think that is very nice because I have the same also with my PhD supervisor. I remember a couple of years ago, like not a couple of years ago, actually last year when I was moving from Switzerland to Germany and doing a switch, that was the first like the first person I contacted was my supervisor saying, "Hey, this is what I'm trying to pursue. What do you think about it?" Right. So this is sort of the relationship which we build as well. I think this is important because it is a continuous guidance, right?
definitely,
It's
definitely.
not, it doesn't stop there. That's
Yes,
cool.
yes. That's
Dr. Das, over to you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I have some interesting. I think I will pick up where you sort of set the stage very well. Since you work with students, so how do you like mentor them to go beyond the safe science, and how to, because some other people will have different things running in their mind. How do you mentor them to go beyond the conventional science and try something unconventional and going towards innovation?
uh, to be very honest, what I have seen among this nature of venturing into your discomfort zone, it's a very rare quality, and most of us like to stay at the safe zone, at a comfort zone, and then try to push ourselves, but within that vicinity. Rarely you will find somebody who wants to move into a very a completely different zone from what you are used to, and try and then excel over there. So this is something which I go ahead and spend time with my students the first time they join my group. And this is a very interesting thing. When I first moved into academia, I remember I was very hungry for students, because that is when I want to establish myself. Over the years, now what happens is that I have become very selective in choosing. I try to find that spark within students who really want to go into their challenging, who wants to challenge themselves. And what I like the way I do it right now is I make things very difficult at the very first interview itself. Whenever I want to recruit somebody, I say that I'm a very difficult boss, and I make people work work horse, and it's very difficult. Don't join me. And what helps is that after all these discouraging remarks, whomsoever clings on to me, I know that person is the one who I am looking for. But in general, what I try to do, I try to assess the students, what they want to do, what is the purpose. Because sometimes I have seen, to be very honest, like in my lab or in our university, we do not get the top tier students as we get as the IIT professors or the ISRs get. So we get the next level students. What I have seen is that whatever they have a lacuna in their merit, or rather in their intellect, they try to go ahead and compensate that by their hard work. So we get a lot of hardworking students who want to really prove themselves. Probably the fact that they have not qualified, or they have not performed well in the NET exam, in NET GRF. So they want to prove that, okay, now that I have got an opportunity, let me show that I still can do it. So that helps us a lot.
Okay.
So this is how I more or less try to ask.
No,
I
is
think
that a
that's a
matter? I have a question. Is that a matter? You are from IIT, doing PhD, doing masters. You are choosing IIT. That's true. But doing research, doing PhD, it's matter. It's IIT or it's the ISC, it's the AIMS. Because I got opportunity to work India or all of the top institute. I know the truth, reality. For my perspective view, yeah, is that in scientist matter a lot. If scientists like you who are doing such a groundbreaking work, uh, I hope so. Scientists matter a lot, not institute.
No, I agree with you that obviously in all these in the top tier institutes, even if we go beyond in Harvard, MIT, there are also professors who are not up to the mark, but they just sustain over there. So for a student, definitely the institutes doesn't matter, but still we are a society in India. I have seen, it's entirely my personal opinion, that we are very influenced by the people we mix. We are a very social, we are too social. Unlike the Western society, where people don't judge that easily, or even if people judge, the person concerned really doesn't care. In our society, and obviously it has its advantages. Like the connect we have in our society, maybe this is a collateral problem, trying to get influenced by the society. So obviously people starts to judge here too often, and then the gradation of the institute, the branding becomes a lot more important for some of them, for not all of them. Obviously, like I'm a very good friend of Professor Devobruto Maiti, IIT
Yeah,
Bombay. He's a good pal of mine, and he always we always have this kind of a discussion. Does the institute matters? Because he always mentions Shubhada. like you don't know what you are doing over there. You are like, you are doing fantastic science. He always encourages me a lot. And I have also heard from other people, like from the top institutes who are my friends, that not all the professors there. Yeah, and there are instances where students joined a particular professor from a particular institute because that particular institute has a big brand, but eventually was very much frustrated. So that's quite off. That's very not.
Yeah.
Then,
So I'm
what
not
your
denying.
suggestion? Then what your suggestion for the student, next generation scientist or next generation who are recently completing their masters or who want to pursue the PhD? What your suggestion means? Choose an institute or choose a professor for PhD?
A professor, definitely professor.
Yeah.
The first
I think
Yeah.
priority.
that is, I think,
Professor is
also what
always
I
important.
always important. Yeah. I
And
think,
not only, like from the
Mhm.
context of like, the knowledge, even the person, how that person is, the
Yeah.
human side of that person is equally important, especially for a PhD student, for a postdoc. Because what happens is at one point of time, that person becomes your, like, the only contact for your career. So
Yeah.
in these kind of things, like even a true knowledgeable person, but as a human being, that person may not be very comfortable to deal with. That becomes a huge problem. Compared to that, a person who may not be as meritorious, but a more humane person is a much safer bet.
yeah, I think this is very important. And we also discussed this in BioFolk, in our community. We generally like to go out of the norm and think. So you can think, you can sort of think about that we are like a think tank who's thinking out of the tank. Yeah. So we
That's
are,
awesome.
yeah. So what I also really, I think you would understand, since you have a lot of experience also working in US, and I have been working in Europe, that here it starts quite early. That the human side of people, to know them, to make networks, you need to know the human side of people.
Definitely.
You need to know, talk to people. And I think in India we do have this. I think we screen out using these tests. We screen out people, and then they go to a certain stage, and then they interact. But I think here students already, because there is no system like that. You also probably know that they start networking quite early and
Hmm.
getting to know people and getting that's when they look at the person, look at the professor, and join them because of who they are, because they will actually push you further. They will connect you to different people. And I
Definitely.
think
Definitely.
that is more important to have. That's when the person is important, because if the person is, just a regular professor doing his research, but he's very good at connecting his people to other people, I think
Sure.
that becomes much more helpful. Don't you think so?
That is very essential. That is very essential. And it is from both perspectives, from the professor's
Mm.
perspective and also from the student's perspective. So, I'll give you an example, like this particular alternate electrolysis. So, the person who worked on it, who is the main, like I would say, the brain behind this work, is a student of mine, Dr. Devojit Maiki. So, Devojit has a very interesting career. So, he did B Farm, then he did his M Farm from BITS Meshra, I think, or B Farm from North Bengal, and then M Farm from BITS Meshra. Then he worked for a company in Glenmark for a couple of years, but somehow he had this urge of doing research. So he joined IICD for a year or so with the hope that his JRF will be converted to PhD. Eventually, for some reason or the other, it did not happen there. And then I came to know about him through my familiar contacts, and this was in 2019. And then he joined my lab. He could, qualify for the PhD admission test. And since then, he started to work on. And over these years, I have seen Devojit developing a complete different like concept from what his original academic training was. He was into pharmaceutics. From there, what he developed was this alternate electrolysis. This is something which is quite like astonishing and fantastic. And I only asked Devojit, I would like to do something in electrochemistry. So let's talk about it. So he started to read about it. That's what I was telling you. Those people who wants to push their boundaries, and and then slowly one thing led to the other, and then we started to do projects in electro-organic synthesis, and then slowly we found that one of our particular reactions was giving some problems. The yield was bad, the current density was poor. So then we started to think how we could go ahead and circumvent this problem. And then we looked into Baran's chemistry, where there was rapid alternating polarity, pulse electrolysis. And that is when it gives us the concept of this alternate electrolysis. So, that is, and this entire interaction over the last 3, 4 years with me and Devojit, it has not only restricted within the lab, it has spilled into his personal life also. So whenever he used to have, like, we are so close, whenever he has some issues in his personal life, he used to, like, what do you think? See, he still again calls me sir, and I call him Devu. So he says, sir, like, what do you think I should do? This is what the issue is. I said, okay, as your senior dada, let me tell you, my experience says you should do like this. And then eventually also, now he's in South Korea doing a postdoc, but he will eventually come back, and he already got a academic position. So he will join there. And the thing is that he has already mentioned that, sir, I will continue working with you. And that is something, despite me telling him that you can develop something of your own. And he's saying that, okay, I will surely develop something of my own, but there is a bond that we have created with you and me. So I want to continue this as long as possible. So I think this connect is something we always look out for.
Yeah. Yeah. I think since you already had started to talking about your work, which is so important, maybe for our audience, you can make us understand about the alternative
Absolutely,
electrodes.
absolutely. So let me just, in simple terms, without going into the nitty-gritties of the technicalities. So what happens is, you all know, in electroorganic synthesis, you have electrolytic setup, you have a cathode, you have an anode, you have an electrolyte, then you give substrates A and B, and the way reaction goes is, the one which has a more negative potential, it will get reduced, the one with the more positive potential, it will get oxidized, and then eventually they will react. Or if you have one particular substrate, that substrate will get reduced, will change into something, work into some others, then will go to the anode, get oxidized, in turn gets neutral to give you a product. What essentially happens is that during the formation of this, once the reaction proceeds for some time, there is this issue of electric double layer. So there is an opposite ions which tends to develop on your electrodes. That's the problem. And as a result of which, the electrodes also starts to react, and it starts to decay. So all these essential problems, whenever there is this electric double layer formation on the opposite electrodes, the disadvantages are your mass transfer reduces, your current density reduces, the resistance increases, as a result of which your system becomes very inefficient. The mere reason why you want to move away from thermal reactions to electrolytic reactions to make the reaction more, user friendly, more eco friendly, and at the same time more efficient, all these advantages go away. And that was the time when Phil Baran, you all know about him, he's one of the most eminent scientists in the world. He came up with two concepts. One is called pulse electrolysis, and the other one is called your rapid alternating polarity. So in this, what happens is that in the pulse electrolysis, you give electrolytic pulse. So as a result of which, there is no continuous electric current. Subsequently, what happens? Your electric double layer formation is not that, substantial. And in rapid alternating polarity, what happens? There is a switch of the anode to cathode and cathode to anode after a particular period. So here also, your electric double layer, the chances of that reduces. However, in both these cases, the essential problem is there is a resting phase. If we see the electrolytic current, you will see that unlike DC current, in this rapid alternating polarity or your pulse, there is always a phase where there is no current. And that is the phase where the EDL dissipates. And that's how your system becomes more efficient. So what we thought, we will remove this resting phase and will create a rapid alternating polarity by using two pairs of electrodes instead of one pair. It's a very simple concept, but it really did wonders for us in that we use a microcontroller to connect these two pair of electrodes. So let the reaction starts through electrode pair A, and then after X seconds or X minute, the microcontroller changes it to the other electrode, pair of electrodes. So essentially the reaction remains the same, only the pair of electrodes changing. So as a result of which, the EDL which was forming on one electrode pair, the moment the electron switches to the other electrode, they starts to dissipate. Then again, after some time, it comes back to your original electrode. So this is the way what happens after every periodic period. Your EDL is not getting a chance to form. Your reaction remains continuous. Your mass transfer is consistent. The charge density is consistent, and the resistance also reduces. So as a result of which, overall, this becomes a very efficient process.
Very
So
good.
this
Yeah,
is
it
a
sounds
very
very
simplistic
interesting.
view
Yeah,
of what
yeah,
we have done,
yeah,
but it has
yeah.
a very huge repercussion, because especially like right after this publication and then after this award, I'm getting a lot of query from different industries where they're using electrolysis. Like for example, in the metal smelting industry,
Yeah.
they use electrolysis, but the main problem is again the same thing, that your corresponding, like because of the formation of electric double layer, because of the corrosion of the electrodes, it's not very this that's the only way they're doing right now, but they're asking me if alternate electrode electrolysis could be utilized. And honestly, we are starting to think about it, if we use electro-organic synthesis for API. So API manufacturing, that also is a very sustainable way of using electro-organic synthesis. And if we could make this AEE apply in that, the API cost will come down. So that will help us, the generic thing that will help us a lot. So this is the overall discovery, and there are a lot of avenues where we can venture.
Yeah. That's
I
great.
would
I think I would. I'm obviously not from the field, but it sounds to me very exciting.
Yes,
And
yes.
and I would not say that I I understand the importance of it, but generally what I could gather, it sounds very important for application and the world itself. I think that is why the award was endowed upon
And the
you.
main
I would,
and the main thing is now energy is something of a very important issue. It's a very
yes,
a very sensitive issue right now. Energy conservation, energy
exactly.
renewability. So
Yeah.
in that way, this will definitely contribute
Mhm.
in a substantial.
Also, let me touch on the award part, because I think that is the gist of our motivation to really contact you and talk to you, because we were really interested after this. What does it mean to you getting this, being the first Indian to get this award? What does it mean to you personally and professionally?
how it's feel like.
To be very honest, uh, when we are like you all, we are all scientists. We never really expect something to happen, or rather, with these kind of awards, it's a very natural process. The discovery, what we do now, definitely there was a motivation because we applied for the award,
Mhm.
and then we wanted to see what are our chances. Obviously, we never hoped to get into such a forum where our discovery will be chosen for this prestigious thing. So now that it has happened, I am very happy that it has given us an importance. The discovery has been given us more than us. I would say this discovery has been given a lot of importance, and this discovery has a lot of scope. So if we could get enough funding to go ahead and then aim our forthcoming objectives, what we already have for alternating electrode electrolysis, uh, I'm thinking that this award will surely help in that aspect. Because
Great.
unlike the awards in the your what you call the film industry or all those things where it is more personal centric, so the awards in these kind of awards are more discovery centric. So that highlights the importance of a discovery. And I'm looking forward to see that if government of India or the different the green chemistry initiatives all over the world could be able to fund us in order to go ahead and take the research to the next level, because there are a lot of things we can do over.
Yeah. No, great. I think, but this, since I get this feeling when we talk, that I can ask you this question, because this is a very interesting question I thought of. Because if there was a historical scientist who you can collaborate with, who would that be?
Uh, I must say, I really wanted to always wanted to work with Newton. you know, for example, what intrigues me with these scientists are uh, after the apple falls, we see a lot of these kind of natural incidents in our life. For ordinary scientists like us, we try to seek for something and then we get the answer. But for these really brilliant scientists who are observing something and trying to find out the reason for that, and that something is not a very out of the thing incident that has happened. It's a very natural incident. Like so many things happened around us, and we rarely raise an eyebrow. But the fact that the Newton like came up with the concept of gravity and then the following things, the laws of mechanics and everything, that really intrigues me. And not only Newton for that matter, even Einstein, Jagdish Chandra Bose, and there's Satyan Bose, and then like there is just like so. Yeah, obviously I said Newton, but I prefer to work this. And another person who I really like a lot is Nikola Tesla.
I was about to say that for some reason. I was about to say that.
Yeah, like he is something. He's like super brilliant and super a very like I would say a very personal person. Like in a sense, he never ever spoke about his research and things like that. So that's a brilliant mind, which definitely I would like to come across someday.
Yeah, very good.
If
I think it's
possible.
also I think it's very good that you say these things, because I think it's very important for students these days to hear that. And I think there is definitely, when we think about the era of then and now, it's a very different world we are living in. And that brings me to the next question of, maybe there are brilliant minds around us, but these students who are brilliant minds, what is your suggestion for them to navigate to become someone where they can pursue what they want, but there is this distance between their brilliant mind, which they maybe know about it or can think that, okay, I have ideas, I know I am good, versus actually translating it to something substantial. So what is your suggestion for that journey? What should they focus on?
I always say this to my students is that try to be curious, try to ask questions. I mean, I have this one of my neighbor's son, and he's really brilliant. And one of the reasons he's brilliant is because he always asks questions. And like the other day, like he came to my office and there were certain chemical, reactions written over there. He just finished his class 12 and he's going to go for MBBS. He scored really high in NEET. But looking at those reactions, he was really staring at them intensely. And I asked him, "So what are you looking at?" Then he asked me like, why is that this thing changed, this molecule changed into that? What is the reason for that? It is just because that the bond wants to break, but why it wants to break? I mean, so these kind of questions, like, if we can, like, if a student who who wants to, needs to be really excited about their subject or for whatever they want to do. And that subject need not to be just physics, chemistry. It could be a translational subject. It's just a concept which will involve all aspects of learnings. So, that's what I always suggest. Be cognitively active and be curious. That will help you.
I think your suggestion would be very important, because you have the experience also from the industry side, where I think industry also focuses more on how to translate ideas in an efficient manner to execute it, right?
Absolutely.
I think this is what also I would like you to tell a little bit about how to translate those ideas to execution, that they can get the position they want. So what do you suggest to, how does one person go after?
Try to frame the question. This was once one of my boss in BASF mentioned to me that the best way to go about achieving your goal is to frame the correct question, ask the right question. So whenever there is a problem, it is the main way to solve this problem is to frame the correct question and then try to see if you can answer them. Say, for example, I still remember he wanted me to tell me is that he wants to mount a picture on the wall. That's the project. So I said, this is a project, mounting a picture on the wall. So what are the questions you are going to ask? So the first question is at which position you are going to frame the mount the picture. So obviously that will lead to another question. So what is it you want to do? Do you want to show the people and that there's this particular picture? So then the next thing is that what is the what will people gain from looking at the picture? So these are the kind of things. So one question, the moment you answer it, it will eventually push you to think about another question. So that is exactly you can develop your problem And it's like a domino effect. Once you start to think, one thing will lead you to the other, and ultimately you will get to your answer, what exactly you want to do.
Yeah, I think genuineness, this is like the genuineness you need to keep in your scientific curiosity, right? I
Absolutely.
think this
And be
shows up.
always upfront. It's
Yeah.
not like whenever you are asked something, do you understand this? And you don't have to say no. Just plainly say yes. I don't. Can you explain to me one more? And then when you, it's like at this point of time, as a good teacher, I have always seen, if you start probing which part you did not understand, what is it you want me to tell? So these kind of conversations, these kind of interactions really clear doubts, because
Yeah.
it's not only about the recipient, it is also the person who is asking the questions. It also depends on that person. It's not only the supervisor and the subordinate, it's both of them. It is supervisor's duty to ensure that the subordinate reaches to a level which could be beyond his, not to become afraid of the fact that, okay, my position will be at a stake if the one what's below me becomes more knowledgeable. What is there? The moment you shed this inhibition, that I do not have to be afraid of, I have confidence in my capabilities, but I will love to have somebody, substituting me or going beyond me. So when you have this confidence, when you instill this confidence among your peers, among your subordinates, so automatically the entire organization improves.
Yeah, I think that's a very important advice. Yeah. Over to you, Manoj, if you have
Yeah,
something
I
to say.
will means last to last means my last turn. I have one interesting question. Yeah, you are achieving Perkins Award, first Indian scientist, as a first Indian scientist. It's very joyful for you, and yeah, joyful for us also. Um, but if you are not a scientist, if you are not a professor, what do you have been?
Yeah, I would have answered this question very easily, maybe about 5, 6 years back, because I was doing a lot of things. I was I was I used to sing a song, like I used to be a decent singer. I used to write a lot of things. I used to paint, and then for last 5, 6 years, the only thing I think about is research. That was the thing. So if I would not have and I can say that because if I would not have been a scientist, probably I would have been a technocrat. That's what people say. Like even in my companies, that you speak so well. So sales and marketing would have been a very big, great position for you, but I hate that job. I just can't take it. I just can't take being a salesperson or a marketer. It's so boring. It's so intellectually, it just goes on, and I never find any. One thing that always driven me my entire life is some intellectual challenge, some cognitive exercise, and that's what. And for last 5, 6 years, barely there was a moment where I have not thought about research. Wherever I used to, like even my family complains that we are on a vacation, but you are still thinking about research. I cannot disconnect from research, because I always have this fear. If I forget about it, it may feel bad.
That's very nice. That's very nice. I think what you said, that you use having a good voice and art, and I think this sounds to me like every other Bengali household,
Yeah,
Absolutely,
a good
So
absolutely.
communicator.
yes, and I think this is very important. I think I do feel that you have that energy in you of communication, and I do also encourage every scientist, junior scientist I talk to. Engagement and communication is necessary. You have that, so that's why people tell you that you could be a technocrat. But I think it naturally comes, and it brings success to you, right?
Also, question is that who are the scientists in your past? Means it's from your childhood to present. Means who are the scientists you are admiring most and why?
You mean my professors or the
Not
scientists?
only, yeah, any kind of scientist.
See, the thing is that, like, there are a lot of people who has inspired me and who have helped me to reach this, this scientific journey. In this scientific journey, one is, I would say, my master's professor in physical or in quantum mechanics, Professor Ashok Prasad Chattopadhyay, APC, as we used to refer to him, and still now we call him sir, but behind him we refer to him as APC. APC is a fantastic person. He's a very nice student, like professor who helps us a lot in a lot of our. He connects with us a lot. So APC definitely plays a huge role in my life. And then there was another professor in my PhD. He was in my doctoral committee, Professor Kent Gates, Kent S. Gates. And I have seen like really those people who can go ahead and come down from their pedestal and can mix with the students as they are, and the way they could switch their intellectual ability depending on the intellectual ability of the students. They connect with me a lot because I can understand that I only know up to this much, but I can see that this person, despite being far superior in his intellectual ability, could come down to my level and never ever made me feel inferior to his intellectual level. These people have influenced me a lot. So I must say that these two people have played a huge role in my uh, in my journey, and I still get in touch with them and speak to them. And obviously my parents, like my mom, who is like a who used to a professor in physics. I have the inclination towards physics has come from her. The concept of research. I still remember when I was in class 7, and we were doing an experiment, a science day experiment. It was like some sunlight, where like we had to use this in a big tub. We used to have this aqua solution of sodium hypochlorite, and then we used to pass light through a prism, Nicol prism, and that was when she started to explain to me that and then we could see the light changes from blue to yellow and then to red, from crimson sunlight, the name of the experiment. So the way she explained to me those things to a class 7 student. So this is something I really enjoyed. My father, even from my young age, he used to treat me like an adult. He used to speak to me and he used to tell me that, I like whenever you want to build up your career, start from research and development, then go to the the plant or the factory, then you go to the business development and ultimately land to your sales and marketing. So like these people are the ones who have really helped me. And obviously, as I was telling Sudip, Nikola Tesla is a big influence, Newton is a big influence. These are like legends. And then obviously Satyajit Ray is something was enamored me for years to come. Whenever I used to read his books about how to make Pother Pachal, and he in that book he mentioned he has done 1,000 mistakes while making the first half of the movie, because he had never ever made a movie before that. He was just an ad guy. So for that first half of Pother Pachali, which he shot, he did so many mistakes which he corrected before. Obviously, what we see is not the one which was riddled with mistakes. But I always think that whenever Satyajit Ray used to make a movie, he used to spend so much time in the details, minute details. And I always consider my research to be like making a movie. I need to be absolutely like very careful about the details in my research, and the way the craft I need to develop in my research, the way I need to develop the reaction, the thought process, they are the big influence.
I think
Dr.
that's
Das, what do
very,
you?
very, very good, story. And I think those, I'm just in my mind, I was just picking up keywords, picking up keywords, which I think are very important. I think what I could gather is that if I could take away your advice, it's always be curious, be genuine, be
Absolutely.
have a genuine curiosity which really reflects when somebody talks to you. Keep your head down and ask questions, and that will
Absolutely.
bring you success in life and whatever you want to. At one point of time, I think we as scientists want to just keep on going and really do what we like and love in research. Right? I think that I think I gathered from this conversation we had. And I think it's really a pleasure. It was really a pleasure talking to
But
you.
also the
And
pleasure was also mine. I
yeah,
really thoroughly enjoyed talking to both
yeah,
of you.
thank you very much.